the Write-Tukubuli Virtual Literary Festival. My name is Carol Sorhaindo. I'm a visual artist. Occasionally I get inspired to write poetry, which is a kind of another form of creative expression. Sometimes you can work through things in life. Um, so this poem called Men Don't Weed was inspired by me watching our gardener hack away at some of the plants with a cutlass. And to me, it appeared very cruel and also reminds me of Hurricane Maria, where things were destroyed and then we got a rapid growth afterwards. So my work really looks at botanical inspiration, metaphors, but also looking at cycles of life, of death and growth, and that whole kind of cyclic energy we see in nature so often. I watched as you forcefully hacked strangler and strangled alike, splitting stems and branches with blunt cutlass in what appeared to me a cruel sport. Men don't weed, she said, amazed by how quickly plants respond to cruelty, new growth almost too rapid. Some say shocked into shape like post-hurricane sproutings. In my efforts to restore Mum's rare and favourite flowers, I set to clearing strangling weeds and overgrowth, survival of the fittest. For a moment, I thought I too had carelessly chopped their struggling heads. I saw my mum's disappointment at perceived loss, and with an act of faith, stooped down to earth, and with bare hands, lovingly picking out strangling weeds and overgrowth, one by one, with soil-stained hands, Pat stripped back to bare earth. A patient waiting game with mostly faith mixed with sprinklings of human doubt. Weeks of tender daily watering of love, battling with slimy night creatures and daily weedy growth. You poked your head once more, and each day made me smile. Climbing to the light, clinging with your leafy tendrils to each other for support. Occasional wooden rods placed to support your fragile spines. That's her sport, he said one day. Today, on your 60th wedding anniversary, flower buds of promise and a single fiery bloom in red and yellow burst forth to celebrate your special week and memories of a lifetime union with my father. Part of my practice is also looking into botanical entanglement, which means the migration of plants into different lands, such as Dominica, as part of my migration journey between Britain and Dominica. I'm going to be reading extracts from a book which came about as part of the Dominica Country Conference 2019, which took place at UWI Global Campus. The conference title was Creole as Cultural Heritage, Framing, Strengthening and Advocating. So this is a book that came about as a culmination of this conference and put together by Dr. Violet Cuffy, who was a real advocate for Creole culture. Sadly, she passed away shortly before the publication of the book, but it's really great that her book has come to fruition and is such a valuable input into Creole history and heritage. So the title of the book, Creole Cultures, Volume 1, Safeguarding Creole Intangible Cultural Heritage. And I'm going to be reading from chapter 7, which is titled Entangled Threads, Creolization of Plants and Landscape, which was put together by myself and Dr. Cuffy. So I'm going to read a little bit from the introduction first of all. Entanglement and Creolization. Whilst much debate on Creole culture focuses on elements such as language, lifestyle, dress, music and dance, this chapter extends further to explore a model of entangled botanical heritage, The concept of viewing history collectively as an intertwined global one, or histoire passée, is becoming increasingly popular as a theoretical framework when re-establishing cultural connections. The term botanical entanglement in this instance is used as a metaphor to highlight these complexities. A metaphor is a means of expression common in many African and indigenous cultures, often drawing on natural references to create mental imagery which aids understanding and learning. The theories of separation and division go back to the birth of scientific racism and taxonomic systems of classifying humans according to appearance and behavior. This system, instigated by Swedish naturalist Carolus Linnaeus in the early 18th century, is one which also applied to plants. Creolization in a Caribbean context could therefore be viewed as an expression of modernism born out of the cultural entanglement of invaders and exploited people, which is rooted in transatlantic trade and colonialism, systems grounded in theories of separation. And in this chapter, I highlight 3 plants which contribute to this entangled botanical roots in a Dominican context: the sugarcane, cotton, and the breadfruit. 3 plants which are very significant in our culture and our landscape. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 3 plants and why I've used them. So sugarcane has an obvious history connected with transatlantic slavery and has significant impact on the deterioration of our lands, but also on the deterioration of our people in terms of our roots and our minds. The cotton is a plant which was grown here, not a plant that we see very much, but it has connection with our indigenous people because there's evidence that Kalinago people were weaving and growing cotton on Dominica. And the breadfruit, which was introduced as a food for enslaved African people who came to Dominica. So in my art, I use plants as a metaphor, but I also use plants as a natural dyes and for a form of exploring this kind of botanical entanglement. Growing up in Dominica, there's a little bit in this book also about the botanic gardens and the things that I hold there, memories that I have walking in the gardens and looking at things like the black velvet tamarind, which were little pods, black velvety pods, which we found in the grass, and cannonball tree and other plants which we hold there, some of which don't exist anymore. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the literary festival.